Well, good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Jeff Caruso, Director of the Virginia Catholic Conference, which represents the state's Catholic bishops and their two dioceses in public policy matters. We are very pleased to be sponsoring this event along with Catholic Climate Covenant and the Diocese of Richmond's Office of Social Ministries. You could say that it was really Pope Francis who brought us here. In June, he released an encyclical on the environment called Laudato Si, on the care of our common home. And today, we are here to make real connections between the message of the encyclical and some critical local challenges. In other words, we are here to shine light on the encyclical's vital relevance to this region. We are delighted to present to you an outstanding group of speakers, and printed copies of their bios are available. After providing a very brief overview of our lineup, I will turn the microphone over to them. Monsignor Walter Barrett is the Episcopal Vicar of the Eastern Vicariate for the Catholic Diocese of Richmond, and he will speak on why the Church is involved in ecological discussions. Monsignor Barrett's remarks will include a statement from Bishop Francis Di Lorenzo. The bishop is not able to be here because he is officiating at a funeral mass, but he will be speaking at a 7 p.m. event tonight on this topic at nearby Sacred Heart Catholic Church, which you are certainly invited to attend. Following Monsignor Barrett will be Dr. William Dingus, a faculty member at Catholic University since 1984, whose extensive research interests include religion and ecology. He will elaborate on the theology of Pope Francis's encyclical. Next, Captain Ray Toll, Director of Coastal Resilience Research at Old Dominion University, will describe how climate change and rising tides are affecting the Hampton Roads region. Then, Admiral David Titley, a nationally known expert in the fields of climate, the Arctic, and national security, will explain the effect of climate change on the U.S. Navy and national security. And then Dan Misla, founding executive director of Catholic Climate Covenant, will tell us how the U.S. Catholic Church is embracing Pope Francis's encyclical and federal environmental advocacy efforts. So with that overview, and without further delay, it's my pleasure now to turn it over to Monsignor Walter Barrett.
Good morning. As Americans, we're very health conscious, and we've been told for years if we take care of our body will take care of us. Our Holy Father, the Pope, has reminded us if we take care of Mother Earth, our home, it will take care of us. I thank you for joining me this morning. I am Monsignor Walter Barrett, as was mentioned, pastor of St. Mary's Star of the Sea and St. Joseph's in Hampton, and vicar of the Eastern Vicariate for the Diocese of Richmond. Bishop Di Lorenzo had planned to be here at the press conference. Unfortunately, as Jeff mentioned, he was unable to do so because it's his custom to preside at the funeral mass for his priests and deacons. May God grant our deacon who died eternal rest. This morning's gathering will offer a glimpse of a more extended conversation we will have tonight at Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Norfolk. Bishop Di Lorenzo will be present tonight to welcome the panelists along with others. I'd like to read the following statement from our bishop. Excuse me. In his encyclical Laudato Si on the care of our common home, Pope Francis has given the Church and the world a great gift. He echoes the wisdom of his predecessors, including Popes John Paul II and Benedict, and the consistent teaching of the Catholic Church about God and his creation. The truth is this: God created the earth. He gave it to mankind to cultivate and harvest and to thrive from and enjoy its bounty. The earth was created to sustain all people. We, in turn, were created to sustain one another in our common home. But because we are responsible to God, we are also responsible to all of his creation, our brothers and sisters, especially the most vulnerable, the unborn, the poor, the oppressed, and also, by necessity, the planet Earth on which we live. If we pay attention, we can see there is trouble in God's creation. The world is in a state of disrepair. Pope Francis very aptly described how we treat both our brothers and sisters and our common home. We have become a throwaway society. This description begs these questions. How are we helping or failing to sustain our brothers and sisters, billions of whom around the world are struggling for their very survival? How are we helping or failing to develop a mutually responsible relationship with the earth, which is burdened by foul air and water, poor soil stripped of its nutrients and forests, and changing climate, among many other things? As a people of faith, or as a people who share the same home, the same planet, we are mutually responsible for each other and for future generations and for our common home. If we have failed to pay attention, we now are called as a community to focus our attention on the interconnected ecological problems around us. To understand the problem and come up with solutions, we must seek out and consider the best information discoverable through science, as well as the truth found in natural law and the moral wisdom of the ages. And finally, we must challenge ourselves and those around us to act individually and collectively to better protect all mankind and the natural world in which we live. As a people of faith and hope, we believe we can and we must restore God's creation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I share with many, both Catholic and non-Catholics, the excitement about the potential of this encyclical. I think we're at a very important teaching moment in the Church as a whole. I'd like to make just basically 3 quick points. One is that this is in relationship to the importance of this encyclical. And one is that it isn't that the Catholic tradition doesn't have a repertoire of reflection on creation, the human relationship with the natural world, and so forth. But one of the things that Laudato Si does is to raise this to a new magisterial level. In other words, it makes this something really important in terms of how we as a community of faith understand ourselves and what our priorities are and should be. So it raises what the Church has had to say about the environment to a new level of importance. Secondly, it does this in a way that encourages urgency, that we need to act now, we need to act in responsible ways, we need to act in individual and collective ways, and we need to act in relationship to cooperating with other both faith traditions and people who do not belong to faith traditions. The third point that I'd like to make, again, is just to emphasize how in continuity with church teaching this document actually is. In 1990, Pope John Paul II, or St. Pope John Paul II, in his World Peace Day, Peace with God the Creator, Peace with all creation, this was an extremely important statement that laid out many of the basic themes, motifs, ideals, principles that in turn were taken up both by Emeritus Pope Benedict and by Pope Francis in relationship to making it clear and explicit that these issues have a moral, spiritual, religious, ethical dimension to them. These are not just problems of technology or public policy. They involve fundamental moral questions, that there is a serious obligation on the part of us as people of faith to have what John Paul II called a kind of ecological conversion experience, and to address these very important issues. So, again, this encyclical raises care for creation to a new level of magisterial authority. It has a sense of urgency about it, and it's absolutely in continuity with church teaching. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ray Toll. I work at Old Dominion University. If you read my bio, you'll notice that I'm also a retired Navy, as is the speaker right after me. And that's an important point to make. I arrived in this region in 1996. We call this our home. And for that reason, when I noticed, when we started looking at the challenges facing this Hampton Roads region, as defined by 1.6 million people, 16 federal agencies, 17 local jurisdictions, a very proactive state government, and you can see all around us the maritime industry that lives and works here. So what I'm excited about in the last 14 months is I've been a part at Old Dominion and College of William and Mary, a community action plan that's modeled after what the president called whole of government. If you Google that, whole of government meant the way in which, as the president envisioned, the way that all the feds could come together and work to make maximum advantage of the tax dollar. We've extended it here in the region to include all these other echelons of government. This encyclical, I believe, is a major opportunity for this 14-month-old pilot, as the White House has called it, to start to involve church groups, citizen engagement opportunities. We have said whole of government for the last 14 months, and we're starting to work that pretty well. But we really are challenged with the whole of community. So as you've heard the speakers before me, and the ones you'll hear after, and I will speak to this evening at Sacred Heart Church, the mechanics of how this experiment or pilot will evolve itself, and we believe this could set a national example for other regions similarly challenged, because we know that this is not a situation that's going to go away soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Ray set the bar there for being brief and succinct, so I'll see if I can hopefully come close to that. I'm Dave Titley. I work at Penn State now. I run the Center for Solutions to Weather and Climate Risk, and as Ray alluded to, before that I was a naval officer for about 32 years and had the honor and privilege of leading the Navy's oceanography community in the last job that I had. I'm going to just mention very briefly three things here, and that is first why I'm so excited about this time, which may seem counterintuitive if you read what's going on in Congress and all that. But it's really an exciting time, I think, and it's a turning point for how the nation thinks about climate. I'm going to talk about what the various groups are that's coming together on this, why this is and then finally why this is, in fact, a security risk as well. So why this is such an exciting time is very simply we are seeing many, many, many different groups coming from very different angles on this challenge, and we're all kind of meeting in the middle. So Pope Francis, of course, is leading the way with a huge faith-based organization, the Catholic Church. Fortunately, he's not the only one. We're seeing other faith-based communities kind of jump on board that train. You see businesses, big businesses and small businesses. Hank Paulson, Risky Business, is a good example. The insurance companies, led by Lloyd's of London and others, are coming on to this. Divestment. That simply is not going away, and I would argue that's also a very moral issue of how much money should we be putting into people who continue to produce fossil fuels and try to minimize these challenges. Health-based risks, security-based risks, science, media, the environment, all of those people are kind of coming together. Some have been at this longer than others, but that's happening right now. And the reason that's so important is because real change comes with the Congress. And I know that's kind of sometimes hard to hear, and we would like to think that we could do this without Congress, but the fact of the matter is the Congress has, and designed it so for our Constitution, has huge powers. They have the power of the checkbook. They have the power of the purse. Administrations come and go. The Congress remains. So administrations can do a little bit. This one's currently doing some things that are good, but without the Congress on board, it won't really happen. The way to get the Congress on board is to get the population on board enough so that the Congress can do it. The way that happens is by different sectors of society getting involved, and that's what we see right now. So this is why this is actually a really exciting time. Just in conclusion, why is this a national security risk? We see the risks are accelerating. You know, everybody who thought like 2 weeks ago was a really good time to put money in the stock market, that was kind of an example of maybe it's a little bit risky right now. We see the frequency and magnitude and consequences of climate-related events continuing to increase. And when things go bad, it becomes a security issue. So we see that. We see that climate really becomes this catalyst for conflict. It happens simply because it's not the only thing in a chain, be it ISIS in Syria or be it the Arab Spring, But without the climate impacts, it's very unlikely that we would have had anything like the security issue that we're dealing with. And we see that more and more. And then finally, it's really a failure of imagination if we don't think about this. It is very hard to think about Norfolk, for example, with the sea level 4, 5, 6, 7 feet higher than it is today. But that's the path we're headed on, and we're going to get there a lot faster than most people realize. And if we don't start planning for that event today, as Ray and his team at Old Dominion University are doing, and thank you for that leadership, when it hits, it will be that much worse because we haven't thought it through. And I think I'll stop there. We have much more to do this evening, and if anybody's interested, come join us this evening, but I'll stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name's Dan Misla. I'm the Executive Director of the Catholic Climate Covenant, which is a consortium of 14 national Catholic organizations that work to implement Catholic teaching on climate change. The teaching on climate change really has to do with two things. It has to do with people, primarily poor people, and the planet. It's not either or, it's both and. As an organization, we are obviously enormously excited about the encyclical. If the encyclical was about nothing else, it was about dialogue. And that dialogue needs to begin to happen in earnest now. We have been trying to help spur that dialogue a little bit. This is the fourth of 5 events that we've hosted over the course of the summer. Back in July, Bishop Pates and Bishop Amos, both bishops of Iowa, met in Des Moines to do a press conference like this. They said that we have to begin to get the candidates who are running for president to talk about this. And as Admiral Titley said, we need to get Congress to start talking about this issue as well. We had Archbishop Supich in Chicago commit to benchmarking, to measuring the energy, the water use of all of his 2,700 buildings in the Archdiocese in the next couple of years. We had Archbishop Schnurr of Cincinnati talk about the tremendous importance of generating energy efficiency programs and renewable energy programs in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, and then in turn use the savings from that to help put it back into the mission of the Archdiocese. Of course, we have this one today in Norfolk, and then next week Bishop Blair of Stockton, California, and Bishop Soto of Sacramento, California will meet with California legislators to teach them a little bit about the encyclical. So that's what we're trying to do. We want the U.S. to lead. The Catholic community wants the U.S. to lead, and the Catholic community ought to be helpful in that, and that's what we're trying to do here. And in part of that, the two things that the Catholic Bishops' Conference are supporting is a national standard on carbon pollution. Similar to the Clean Power Plan, they're not directly supporting that plan, but they say we need something like that in order to drive down carbon pollution. And the U.S. has to accept its responsibility as historically the largest emitter of carbon dioxide. And so the bishops are supporting the Green Climate Fund, which helps low-income countries deal with the consequences of actions of all of us. So we are very excited about this press event. Again, we hope to see you tonight as well. Thank you.